Hello guys, welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and this message, it goes on like this. Hello brother Nashi, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? My brother, my story, it goes on like this. There was a time when I was still back home in my country before I had migrated, and I am now in a country. Please do not mention the place where I am now staying at, but I am coming from Zim as well. So there was a day when I saw that there was no food in the house. My wife at that time, she was heavily pregnant with our second child, and there was no money in the house because of the complications that she was facing. As someone who was a prophet, and I am a red garment prophet, I then started to question myself, and I started to question God. I then said that, but when people come to me, I use the powers that you have given me to try to give them assistance, but none of them has ever thanked me. At my place there in the village where I was staying with my wife, people would travel from far off places, and they would come. Some of them, they would even come when they would be mentally ill, but all of them, after curing them, their relatives would just say thank you. It was always promises after promises. And I had been told that in our family, when one of my relatives, who is my uncle, had found out that I had a gift of prophecy and assisting other people, and this gift, it came from my grandfather, who was also a traditional healer. So since I was someone who loved praying, he then came to me and he allowed me to pray and to prophesy, and not to become a traditional healer like he was. So my uncle was jealous of this, because he also wanted his own son to become a traditional healer. So what my uncle had done is that at the time when there was a ceremony that was performed in our family, this ceremony, you know, that ceremony that we do back home, whereby we call the spirit of our dead relative to come back into the homestead so that they can look after the homestead and fight against those that try to fight against the family. So at that time, our uncle was then said that what he had done is that when we were still brewing that traditional beer, he had taken a 5-cent coin, and he had taken that 5-cent coin and he had gone and placed it on top of the grave that belonged to my grandfather. So he was trying to buy the spirit of my grandfather. This is the way that people buy the spirits of their ancestors if they want them, because you just take an old coin like the ones that they used when they were still alive, then you go and you place it on top of the grave of that person that you want the spirit to come to assist you. So that was what my uncle did. He went and he placed that 5-cent coin on top of my grandfather's grave, and he then told my grandfather's spirit not to come and assist me, but to fight against me, but to come and help out his own son, so that his son can become a traditional healer. He then told my grandfather's spirit that I had chosen religion, this Christian religion, over our own tradition. Thereby, I did not deserve to have the spirit of my grandfather helping me in life and giving me blessings. And my relatives at this time, they didn't even know that this is what my uncle was doing. All that they knew was that he was heavily involved in the process of looking for other traditional healers that could come and help or direct the spirit of my grandfather to come back into the homestead, so that it can look after us as its own children. And then on the day that we were supposed to perform this ceremony at night, early in the morning, before sunrise, it was said that our uncle then went back to the graves and he removed that 5-cent coin, and he went with that coin back to his own compound. What he did is that he then took a clay pot. After he had taken that clay pot, he then placed that 5-cent coin on the floor, and he then covered that 5-cent coin with that clay pot. What he had done is that he had trapped the spirit of my grandfather inside that clay pot. In the meantime, he was going to look for someone that was going to assist him so that he can transfer the spirit of our ancestor from that place that he had it trapped, going into the body of his own son, the one that he wanted him to become a traditional healer. We did the ceremony throughout the night, but what shocked everyone was that the spirit of my grandfather, each and every time when it would come to possess my body, then people were saying that I started crying and crying, and when I was crying in pain. So people knew that something was wrong, because my grandfather's spirit was supposed to be happy that we had actually performed this ceremony for him. So after this ceremony, then everyone went on their own ways, whilst they were trying to provide for their own families. So without the spirit of my grandfather fully possessing my body, then it started causing a lot of bad luck in my life. But still, my grandfather's spirit was still guiding me, even though sometimes it was used to fight against me. Even though it was guiding me, when it would come time for someone to thank me, then the spirit of my grandfather will turn its back against me, so that people will find no reason to thank me. I kept on praying for several people, Brother Nashi. People would come to me, people that were barren, women and men that could not give birth, and those people that would come to me after praying for them, then they would be released and they would actually go back and they would have a child. But none of them would ever return back to me so as to thank me. Some would actually promise me goats, some would promise me cattle, but no one would ever return. One day, Brother Nashi, when I was sitting in the mountains, I had gone up into the mountains with some other people that had their own relative. They had bought their relative. Their relative was sick and he was suffering from HIV, but there is a kind of an HIV whereby there is an evil spirit as well that is involved. Whilst we were in that mountain, then a word came down from heaven, and I was told that I was supposed to stay in this mountain alone for 2 weeks, and all that I had to eat in our country, there is this fruit that is called matamba. That is all that I had to eat for 2 weeks, and I had to drink water. No other food was there was no any other food that I was allowed to eat. At least I was alone in that mountain as I was praying for that man who was like sick. I cried, Brother Nashi, because I kept on thinking about my own life. My wife was about to give birth and there was no money. There was not even enough preparation. Yet here I was suffering in the mountain, trying to help another family like many other families that I had helped before, but none of them had ever thought of thanking me. Brother Nashi, I didn't even last for those 2 weeks, because one day I just said, no, I cannot do this anymore. There was a man already whom I knew. I had visited this other village, and whilst I was in that village, there was a man who had came to me. He also told me that in his family there are a lot of traditional healers. He had told me that if I were ever to find like pastors or prophets that wanted their churches to go big, then I could actually direct them to him. I then went and I spoke with him. I had starved for so many days. When I arrived at his compound, I just fell down, and he saw that this man was going to die. So he then called his wife, and they quickly made soft porridge for me, but it was very thin because I had not eaten anything for several days. After they had given me that thin soft porridge, I then recovered, and I told that man that here I was ready to receive whatever he wanted to give those pastors, that he had told me that if I would ever find a pastor or a prophet that wants to enlarge his own church, then he knows the herbs to do that. So Brother Nashi, I then spoke with that man and he agreed. When he saw my situation, he said that I know that you are someone with a kind heart. What you love doing is to help people. Therefore, I am going to help you for free. This man then told me that he was going to give me a spirit spirit, but this spirit was always going to be sitting on my back forever until I die. Even right now, Brother Nashi, if it ever happens that we sleep in the same room, you would be scared of the things that happen to me when I am fast asleep, because that spirit, when I am fast asleep, it then possesses my body. Even the way that I snore, Brother Nashi, it is not even normal at all. You can actually even think that there is a train that is passing by, yet it will be me that will be snoring. That spirit, once I go to bed, it will then possess my body. Sometimes I can actually wake up and I can start even walking around, because that spirit would want that. It would want me to go around walking when I will be fast asleep. But that is another story for another day. So that man then said that what we were supposed to do is that we had to go to the graves, and these graves that we were supposed to go to, I was supposed to randomly choose a grave, and this grave was not supposed to be a grave of a person that was related to me in any kind of a way, and we were to choose a grave whereby the person will not have the same totem as I had. So Brother Nashi, during the day, we walked around the village. We would be looking at the tombstones, like the name and the surname. Then it would be very obvious to me that this surname doesn't share the same totem as I have. Then late at night, me and that man and his child, we then went to that grave, and he made me to sleep on top of that grave. Brother, when I was sleeping on top of that grave throughout the night, the first thing that came to my mind was that what if I am going to get caught by the relatives of this man that died, this man that I am now sleeping on his grave? Won't people kill me? But I had to be very strong. I was not afraid of spirits or anything, because I had been in this industry for many, many years. That man and his son, they returned back home. They left me. This was somewhere around 11 p.m. So from 11 p.m. until it was 5 a.m. when that man returned back to fetch me, I was all alone. Brother Nashi, I didn't see any spirit at all, but I kept on hearing voices. These voices, the way that they were talking to me, these voices, it was like there were people that were leaning over on top of that grave that I was sleeping on. They kept on talking and talking and talking. When the next morning came, this felt like forever. That night was like the longest night of my life, the night that I spent sleeping on top of that grave. When that man came the next morning, I felt like I was heavier, and I was someone who could not be taken for granted. I felt that I had so much power in my body. We returned back to that man's house, and he asked me what I wanted to do, if I wanted a church, or if I wanted to be a healer, or if I wanted to be someone that will just live his private life and just have his private wealth. And I chose that life. I was tired of assisting people. I didn't want to be a leader of people that were not going to appreciate me. For many years, in honesty, I had tried to help people that were sick, help people that were mentally ill, and I had gotten nothing out of it. So this man, he had placed 3 maize grains in front of me. He said that I was supposed to choose whatever lifestyle that I wanted, to become a pastor or to stay as a prophet, but as a prophet that will be having a very big church whereby people will be like worshiping me because of the power of that spirit that I had collected from the graveyard. I chose a life that was a private life. I told myself that once I have money, build my house in the suburb, live life, enjoy life until death will come to collect whatever it would have given to me. Little did I know that there was much, much more that was going to be required from me. So I chose that maize grain. After I had chosen that maize grain, then that healer took out this other male chicken and he placed it in front of me. This chicken, Brother Nashi, it was always locked up in this other big drum. I don't know how it managed to survive locked up in that metallic drum, because it does not even have any holes whereby the air will enter into that drum. After he had placed it in front of me, he then said that he was going to give me more maize grains, and I was supposed to pour those maize grains on the floor. The amount of maize grains that this hen was going to eat, that was the amount of years that I was going to live. Brother Nashi, after I had done that, then this male chicken then ended up eating 24 maize grains. When I did this, Brother Nashi, this was in 2015. So from 2015, I am still now counting, and after 24 years, that is when death is going to come and collect whatever that it gave to me. So I thought that this was quite easy. 24 years, live 24 years, then just die. But more was going to be requested from me, and that is what made me to end up running away from the house that I had built back in my own country and coming to this secret location where I am currently hiding and looking for assistance from other healers in this country where I am currently hiding. My wife, after we had finished building our house, then she started to experience severe stomach cramps. The way that she would experience these severe stomach cramps, she said that she was feeling like there was someone that would be cutting her stomach wide open. My wife didn't survive for a very long time. 2 years after I had made money, then my wife just passed away. When my wife passed away, her relatives then went and visited a traditional healer, and they came back and they told my relatives that the place where they had gone to, that traditional healer, he used a big TV and they saw me in on that TV as I was performing all of those rituals when I went to visit that man who gave me these rituals. So they were now after me. They said that I was the one who sacrificed their own sibling. So I had to run away, and when I ran away, my own family then chose to throw away my children because they were saying that we do not want to be part of his rituals. So the last thing that I had was that my kids, they were just staying on the streets. In the country where I am right now, Brother Nashi, I am someone who is considered to be very wealthy in the community where I am staying. The women that I meet on a daily basis, their prayer is that if I can only look at them, if I can only marry them. But they do not know that I am like an empty vessel that is just walking around. I lost everything. The little that I thought that I had, the little that was very important to me, I lost it all. Usually when I am with these women that they call the slay queens, I feel nothing. No matter how beautiful the woman might look like, but I feel nothing, because the woman that I was married to, she was one who meant everything to me. Even right now, some of the healers that are trying to assist me, if they are going to suggest that if I have to sacrifice these women that date me for the sake of my money, I can even sacrifice the whole world that will be full of those women, because they do not know the pain that I had to go through for them to enjoy the money that I have right now. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me, and then our dear brother said that please never forward my phone number to anyone. Please do not reveal the country from where I wrote this message from. Strange things do happen in this world.